Hi there. So as you can tell from my videos, I have been busy making decks these last couple months. It's funny because I've written 12 books and I love books, but I kind of feel like I'm done writing books for now. But what I really started to be interested in were decks where you could just pull some cards and get a message every day. And so it's been interesting because this has kind of been a few years in the making. And what it actually ended up being is this deck called Spirit Speaks. And there are 5 decks within that one deck. And when you pull one card from each deck, what it actually does is it makes a really cool message from Spirit. But the point of the message is to bring awareness to our patterns that we are subconsciously acting from, like subconscious thoughts and programs. So what happens is we do things without knowing that we're doing them. And when we bring awareness to our patterns, what that does is tell us, like, wait a minute, this is what you're doing. And by doing this, it is pulling you from this state of alignment. And I've been talking about alignment, and I'm going to keep talking about it because when we're aligned with love, joy, peace, and truth, that is where we become this embodiment of everything we are meant to become. But our patterns is what pulls us from that space. And when we're acting from those, that's when we're reacting. So when we're doing those things, it's like we're suffering. We can think and suffer or become aligned and thrive and live and just be in this state where we can eventually get to this state of ease and flow where fear does not exist. And the thing about that is it's not a lasting state. Like it's not like you get there and you stay there. The point of everything that I've been talking about and that I'm going to be doing from now on is to help people get to that state and recognize when you're getting pulled out so that you can learn how to get back in. And it's like it's creating neural pathways. And my friend used this really good analogy. I'm actually doing a podcast with her tonight. She used this really good analogy yesterday that I loved. And she said, getting into that state is like going for a chiropractic adjustment. You go for the adjustment and you feel better. But what happens is your muscles and your ligaments were pulling you into that state of misalignment. And so you can go to the chiropractor over and over and over, but you also have to do the work in between to stretch your muscles and exercise so that you don't have to keep going to the chiropractor. And that's really how I see this. That's really how I see this is we want to do the work to get into that state. But it's not like we're going to stay there, because once we get out, then life starts to pull us. We start to worry about things. We start to overthink things. And then when we start to feel anxious and afraid and all of these different emotions, what our emotions actually show us is what thoughts we're believing, because our thoughts generate our emotions. Our emotions are purely chemical reactions, but they come from something. And so this is why I want to keep talking about this, because I want to help you stay in that state. And I've been doing this work for like 19 years now. And for the last, since 2016, I don't even know how many years that is now, but that's like 10 years actually. So it's almost 10 years that I've been meditating for at least an hour a day. I didn't realize it was that long. But for me, meditation has been a really, really big part of that, because when you're meditating, my friend Crystal, who I did a podcast with, said that meditation actually means to become familiar with. And I love that, because what happens when you meditate is you really do get into this state of connecting to who you are as opposed to who you think you are. You connect to a world that is real as opposed to the world that you've been taught about. You connect to the beauty and the goodness of humans as opposed to what you were taught about other people. It really is a fascinating place to be. And what I've experienced through the years is that we just keep getting deeper and deeper into the moment. And as we're deep in the moment, we're actually reprogramming, we're actually dissolving the fears that we've been programmed with. And the interesting part of this is we become more love than we are fear, because we have neural pathways that are our belief systems create neural pathways, and the nerves that wire together fire together, the nerves that fire together wire together. So it's actually, so if you imagine yourself walking down a path, through a field once or twice, you're still going to see your pathway, but it's going to be hard to follow. But if you walk that pathway every day, multiple times a day for 52 years or however old you are, eventually that's going to be a well-laid path, and you're not going to want to veer off that path because it's so easy to follow that path. And that's what happens with our neural pathways. When we think certain thoughts, when we do certain things, it becomes simple. And that's what happens when we become comfortable. We become comfortable in what we've experienced, and it's repetition and intensity. So some people become comfortable in abusive relationships. Some people become comfortable in jobs that they hate. Some people become comfortable not making very much money. Like, we become comfortable in what we've experienced. And so when we actually start to feel our emotions and notice our thoughts and get into the state of alignment, what that state of alignment actually does is it allows us to not think those scary thoughts all the time or those limiting thoughts all the time. And when we're not using those neural pathways as often, they start to dissolve and fall away. And I mean, there's just so much to this, and this is why I want to talk about this every day, because it's so incredibly powerful to start to see that you have the ability to create a new life for yourself. You don't necessarily have a say in what life you create for yourself, but you do have a say in, I want something different. I want to live a divinely led life. I want to step into my divine gifts. I want to step into my divine purpose. I want to see what life has in store for me. And that is the decision that we all get to make. And when we make that decision, that is when we start to take this shit seriously. And it's like, holy fuck, there is nothing more important than stepping into my divine purpose, finding my divine gifts, finding my divine existence. And that is where I am now. I've been doing this work, like I said, for 19 years, but now it's like, holy shit, I am really starting to feel this embodiment of internal power, just this embodiment of value and worth. And it's like, why the fuck would we not want to do everything humanly possible to allow ourselves to see what our divine purpose is? And that is where we start to meditate, for at least an hour a day. We journal, we have open, honest conversations. Like, everything that we can possibly do is what we get to do in order to create this life for ourselves. And that is where I am now, and that is why I want to keep talking about this, because I feel like I'm on the other side of so much fuckery, and now I can help you get to the other side of yours and really truly find out what those gifts are for you.